Well, guys, once again, good evening. Welcome to tonight's session. El viernes pasado arrancábamos oficialmente con nuestro ciclo A2.4. Y bueno, antes de pues iniciar con los referentes ya a seguir trabajando, que viene siendo la idea siempre, pues par de detallitos de logística, por decirlo así. Primero, pues el mismo viernes me tomé el atrevimiento, ya cuando se habían acabado los dos bloques, de enviarles el correo. Yo les había dicho que lo iba a hacer hoy, pero caí en cuenta que si querían terminar de hacer la actividad que habíamos hecho en clase y ya al tener cerrado el chat, de pronto en algunos de los casos no tenían el link, querían ver la grabación, en fin, un millón de cosas. Por eso fue que pues tomé la decisión de enviarles este correo. Y bueno, solo va, por decirlo así, la presentación, pero ustedes recuerdan que en la mayoría, por decirlo así, de diapositivas, teníamos como varios links que nos llevan a ciertas partes de trabajo, por decirlo así. Por ejemplo, acá el link donde vamos a subir eventualmente el material visual que viene siendo lo de la presentación del proyecto. Aquí también la información de los grupos, la rúbrica, el ingreso virtual que todavía está pendiente. Estar atentos. Yo sé que lo ideal es empezar a trabajar lo más pronto posible, pero bueno, estamos a la espera. ¿Me salí? Acá. También haciendo referencia a los parámetros del examen, la gran mayoría ya están familiarizados, pero bueno, tenemos varios estudiantes nuevos que, digamos que la idea es como ponerlos al corriente de todo lo que se realiza. Ahí están los parámetros, si ustedes los quieren mirar con antelación. Yo les contaba el viernes que pues digamos oficialmente yo hago un envío del correo en la sesión 8, el día de la sesión 8 más bien, en la sesión 9 pues lo revisamos de tal manera que en la sesión 10 solo sea tomar asistencia y arrancar el examen. Pero pues la invitación, si quieren hacerlo, obviamente, al igual que la revisión de la rúbrica, que también está el link acá que nos lleva a la rúbrica del speaking. Y bueno, que es lo que usamos más constantemente, que viene siendo la carpeta que contiene los instructivos y los materiales, nuevamente como insistiendo un poquito con los estudiantes nuevos, aquí está para hacer toda la creación del perfil para tener el acceso al libro. Digamos que por el momento hacerlo del ingreso a módulo, eventualmente pues aparecerá el aula para empezar a trabajar. Y bueno, el cronograma de actividades y lo referente a las sesiones. Y bueno, quizás también algo a lo que les quiero hacer un poquito de énfasis es el link de las grabaciones. Guys, discúlpenme un momento, regálenme un minutico. Guys, thank you very much. Disculpen, tenía que contestar. Y bueno, les comentaba lo de las grabaciones, por si hay algún aspecto en particular. Cada ciclo pues se va cambiando el link. Obviamente es un documento nuevo, pero ustedes tienen el acceso a la información. No sé si de pronto tengan alguna pregunta referente a eso, a lo que estuvimos trabajando, a la información general. No sé si haya algo como tal. Voy a mirar acá si apunté la mano levantada. Bueno, por el momento parece que no. Digamos que estamos al pendiente de la matrícula en Moodle para eventualmente pues empezar el trabajo en el aula. Ojalá no pase de mañana, que ya después de mañana pues se nos complica un poco, pero por lo demás, al pendiente, no dejemos para última hora, digamos, las otras preguntas. Y bueno, ya a medida que vamos avanzando, le recordaré cosas como lo del proyecto, cómo vamos a trabajar ese día la sesión para que sea obviamente lo más organizado posible. Guys, voy a tomar asistencia y pues arrancamos. Karen Victoria Acevedo.
Presente.
¿Listo? Steven Santiago Fonseca.
Here, teacher.
Okay. Sergio David Gómez. Not here for the moment. Seguimos acá. André Felipe Jaimes. No ha ingresado Andrés todavía. Kiara Lisette Martínez.
Present, teacher.
Ok. Jorge Jair Moreno.
Present, teacher.
Ok. Mm, Diego Fernando Olarte.
Present, teacher.
Ok. Dana Valentina Ortiz.
Present, Miss.
Ok. Manuela Ortiz.
Present, teacher.
Listo. Joan Sebastián Pavón. Not here. Beatriz Omaira Pedraza. Pues no está por el momento. Hamilton Peña.
Present, teacher.
Ok. Xiomara Caterina Rincón.
Present, teacher.
Ok. Jessica Paola Ríos.
Present, teacher.
Listo. Caterina Alexandra Rodríguez.
Present, Miss.
Ok. Marlon Yesid Sánchez. Pareció que lo había visto. Bueno, ingresó. Cuando conteste pronto ahorita, ajusto acá. Mendy Fabián Santa.
Present, teacher.
Listo. Manuel Alberto Sepúlveda.
Present, teacher.
Ok. Karen Juliet Torres.
Present.
Ok. María Alejandra Vega.
Present, teacher.
Ok. Vanessa Zambrano.
Present, teacher.
And Natalia Navarro. Natalia. Natalia no está. Por the moment. Confirmo si en efecto no está. Estaba tomando asistencia y vi que ingresó Sergio David Gómez.
Yes, teacher.
Okay, there you are. Very good. Let me adjust the attendance so we can start. Well, anyway, there are like few minutes left for the other classmates to take part of the session. Well, guys, let's start. We continue, of course, working with our unit 11. We're about to finish our book. Today, we're going to focus on two aspects. We will be talking about speaking and vocabulary, and we will have a look at a second grammatical component. I think that this second grammatical component is very easy for you. There is a connection with another grammatical component that you already studied. Of course, as usual, if we want to have our point of reference, we are talking from pages 100 and 101, just in case you want to have like a general view of what the topics of today are. First of all, well, we will be talking about camping, traveling a little bit. And this question that we have in here actually is the first question that we have here in our book. And I would like to know most of your opinion. In some cases, I ask some of you, and in other cases like this, I would like to know as many opinions as possible. I'm going to send the link to the chat. The question says, what do you think is the best and the worst about going camping and why? In this type of activities, when we do it like at the beginning of the session, the idea is to provide a very short and precise answer. While the class develops, usually like at the end of the session, then is when I ask you like to expand a little bit, to provide more ideas. But for the moment, always when we begin, the idea is like a very concise and precise idea. I'm going to send the link again. No, I haven't sent it. I'm going to send the link now. The idea is that in a very short and precise way, you answer this question. I'm gonna read it again. What do you think is the best and the worst about going camping and why? Guys, do you have any questions about this instruction while it set the timer? Questions? Let's see the chat. Well, I see that 2 people arrived. I need to see their names. Marlon as well. Well, guys, 5 minutes to answer this question. The good things and the bad things about going camping. I'm going to display this slide in particular. 5 minutes and we check. Starting now. Beatriz as well, very good. Alguien más ingresó, pero no alcancé a mirar. Marlon, Beatriz. No, Marlon was already here. Ah, John Sebastian is still. Well, guys, time's up. I'm going to start reading some of your answers. We are talking about camping. Well, if you are, I know that you do, having a look at tonight's, let's say, set of pages we will be working on. As you can see, like in very general terms, we are talking about camping. Of course, there is also a grammatical component that we are going to study tonight as well. Let's see some of your answers. The best is to enjoy the nature and to share with important people. The worst is maybe the rain and the insects. Okay. Personally, I don't like it at any circumstance. I think the best thing is that you can take good pictures. Como estamos hablando en plural, pictures, entonces este A no es necesario. Recordemos que A siempre es singular para mantener la concordancia en número acá. The worst thing is you don't know if it'll rain, if it, haciendo referencia, aquí cabe un it, it'll rain hard and you will probably get wet. Yeah, that is one of the negative things about that. Absolutely. So first the insects and second talking about the weather. Let's see if we have something new. The best is the contact with the nature because it gives you peace, and the worst is the pain back you get for sleeping on the floor. Como tenemos una preposición acá, al verbo nos toca ponerle ing, no significa que sea progresivo, simplemente es una regla que tiene el inglés. El nombre técnico sería ponerlo en gerundio. Toca. The best, bueno, sorry for the noise, is to have contact with nature and the wildlife. The word is uncomfortable. Sería uncomfortability. Uncomfortable solito nos queda como un adjetivo y nos tocaría acompañarlos como uncomfortable, ¿qué? Como incómodo, ¿qué? The best is on the environment and the worst, the mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are winning tonight. The best about going camping is to spending time with good friends and get away from the city. But the worst thing is that it can be really uncomfortable. And ya quedó dentro de la oración. I think the best thing about going camping is nature. The worst is the little animals like the stilt walkers. Okay. Okay. This is a big one. That you can have time with your friends in the forest. Also at night, you can burn marshmallows. Okay. The words about camping, the mosquitoes, and the different animals that can bite you. That's the reality. Okay, someone doesn't like camping, but I think that the best thing would be the contact with nature, away from pollution of the city. And the worst thing is to be exposed to dangers from both animals and people. Unfortunately, safety is one aspect that also is compromising that type of activity. The thing when we have gone camping is sharing sería. Aunque lo mejor ha sido compartir. Nuevamente, aunque va con ing, simplemente una estructura que toca ponerla así. With our friends or family, also we enjoyed the landscape, and the worst thing when we have gone isn't, okay? And the worst thing when we have gone is, is to not have internet connection o an internet. Como arranca acá con vocal, nos toca an y no a. Es una obligación, por decirlo así, because there is no signal. Yeah, and especially now that we live connected all the time, basically. I sleep under the stars, sería varias, in around nature, but I don't like when I sting an insect and I hear dangerous animals. Well, Beatriz, you don't sting. An animal sting you, you know, like you get a sting, my bien, because you don't do that on the animal, I think.
Yes.
In that perspective, you know, a little bit. But we get the idea. Let's see this one. Seeing the beauty and different landscapes of nature, the worst thing is dangerous animal you can find. That was from Manuela. Okay, good thing, contact with nature. Some of you a little bit more, let's say, romantic, talking about the stars and the enemy, the mosquitoes, the animals, and danger in general. Contact with nature, the sound of crickets. Okay, some people actually enjoy the sound of crickets. Manuel says the worst thing is not having all commodities. They have at home like nice couch, bed, or TV. Also mosquitoes, absolutely. That was a new one. This one. The other thing about going camping is that the time goes slow. Okay, I actually like that it goes slow. Okay, time goes slowly. Uno en español diría que el tiempo va lento, pero en inglés es muy restrictivo en ciertas cosas y como este slow no está hablando del tiempo, sino de cómo el tiempo se comporta. Es decir, está modificando es el verbo. Por eso nos toca el adverbio. En español tendría sentido decir que el tiempo va lento, pero tendríamos que decir que va lentamente. And walks in nature. The words, bueno, ahí el spelling se nos sigue escapando. Need the striders and uncomfortable. Sería otra vez uncomfortability. When we sleep in the tent without sleeping. Yes, like you're supposed to sleep, but you don't sleep. The best thing, bueno, aquí qué pasó? Is to have an experience with nature, and the worst is not having a bathroom and the dangerousness of animals. You're absolutely right, guys. Thank you very much for most of you who could send the answers. I know that probably some of you had problems with connections or something. There is one answer. Just to wrap up this part. Visiting new places, the worst is the insecurity, sería con C. Of sleeping in open places, Karen A. Entonces lo que les contaba hace un ratito. No podemos usar a si estamos hablando de varios lugares para que haya, digamos, yo la uso bastante y no es por ser intensa la concordancia. Como estamos hablando de lugares, pues no podríamos usar un lugares, no quedaría bien. But the idea is pretty clear, guys. Thank you very much. You were 16 out of 20. Maybe the other 4 had connection problems. But you will have the opportunity to provide your ideas later on. Well, guys, I'm going to present once again the 2 pages that we have in our book because what you're going to do now is a very basic vocabulary exercise. Let me zoom in a little bit. This was the first question that we had in the Mentimeter. The instruction says, match the words in the box with the photos. Okay, I'm going to zoom out once again. The idea, guys, is that with this vocabulary that you have in here, you are going to match it with the corresponding words that we have down here. In this case, as you can see, we are talking about a lot of objects that we can, in this case, let's say, assign to this type of activity, which is going camping, okay? Notice that you have to use all the words about the vocabulary to be matched with the corresponding image. It is easier for you guys to do it like having a look at the book, of course. So I'm going just to put it like this. I'm going to just zoom in here the vocabulary so you can have a look at it, while on your books you have a look at the section that has the pictures. Just to match, okay? Guys, do you have any questions about this instruction? Questions?
No, teacher.
Perfect. So remember, I'm gonna keep here the vocabulary. So in your books, you can, let's say, navigate easily, having a look at the different, let's say, images that you need to match with the corresponding vocabulary. I dare to say that it's a pretty easy exercise, but anyway, I'm gonna give you 6 minutes because there are a lot of words that you have to organize. We will check and then we will move to a listening exercise. 6 minutes starting now.
Teacher, let me see, please, the photo of the camping.
Okay, let me put it like this. The thing is that if I zoom out, it is incomplete, but I guess like this, you get the hint.
Okay, teacher, thank you.
Okay, welcome. Yeah, guys, if any of you also needs a screenshot, like this is the moment, so I can move back to the set of words. Okay. There it is. Well, guys, thumbs up. Let's have a look at our vocabulary. Remember that the idea was to match the words with the corresponding objects. Our context was talking about camping. So I'm gonna place it like this. I think that somehow we can see all of the words. I know you don't have the book. I just like to make sure that all the objects are present. So Beatriz, tell me the objects for A, B, and C, please.
A mirror.
Mhm.
B insect repellent.
Repellent.
And C tent.
That's it. Very good, Beatriz. Thank you very much. Diego, please, what about D, E, and F?
D are compass. E is toilet paper. F is knife.
E and F are okay, but D is not the compass. Well, it is a little bit tricky, you know, but it's not D.
Is magnifying glass?
It's magnifying glass. That's the one. Very good. Hamilton. Well, to clarify, D was magnifying glass. E and F, we said that they were correct. Hamilton, what about G, H, and I?
Teacher, ¿I es la otra?
G, H, and I.
I es battery.
Mhm.
Mm, no entiendo la imagen, teacher.
You don't get H, what you say, Hamilton?
Es que es en el solar. ¿Es como una brújula?
Yes, that's the one.
Mm,
So the one that
mm,
Diego said a few seconds ago.
mm, no, teacher, I don't say. And the gym is a tower? No, towel.
That's not the one. 1 out of 3, Hamilton. Let's ask Joan Sebastian for help with G and H.
H is compass
Mhm.
and G. I don't know.
We had the words. What happened, guys? Jorge, help. What about G? We had the list.
What is G?
What is G? That's the question.
Blanket.
Where?
It's blanket. Thank you very much. Let's see the chat. If we
G
have
is
something. Okay. It is the blanket. Well, the thing is that the concept probably that we have a blanket or the image that we have a blanket in our mind is a little bit different. But in this case, that's the word that goes to this object in particular. Sorry, I interrupted someone. Someone was going to say something? Well, in conclusion, G was blanket, and when H didn't have a problem with the compass. Okay, let's have a look at J, K, and L. Karen Juliet, please.
I don't have the J, but I have the other ones.
Okay, don't worry.
K is bottled water. L is water purification tablets.
So let's ask Karen Victoria for some help with J. What about that one?
J torch.
That's the one. Karen, and also could you help us with M and N, please? Karen Victoria? Just to clarify.
M is sunscreen.
Okay,
Matches.
that would be it. Very good. And what about the two ones that are left, O and P? Catherine Rodriguez.
Yes, Miss. P is roll. Yeah.
And O, also O.
Sunglasses.
That would be sunglasses. Very good. Let me have a look at the chat. And a little bit. Okay. Oh my God. No way. Let's see.
Miss,
Aquí es,
N is matches.
N is matches. This one. Yes.
Y linterna is torch.
That would be J. Yes.
K, teacher, K is water purification tablets.
No, K is bottled water. This is K.
L,
And the tablets are L.
water purification tablets.
That's the L. Yeah, probably because the letters are like too close. Yeah, because this letter goes here with the box of tablets and the K goes with the bottled water. Yeah, it was a little bit tricky. What else? What else? Yeah, probably we are more familiarized with some of like, well, with all of the objects I dare to say, but probably the type of picture that we have in here could be a little bit confusing, but I'm sure that in general aspects, you are already familiarized with all the objects that we have in here. Once again, talking about our context of camping. Let me have a look here. I think there is a message, but I didn't. Okay, we're going to do a listening exercise. Let's have a look at the instructions. Of course, all this vocabulary that we have about camping is going to be really helpful for the activity that we're going to do tonight. Manuel, please, could you read this instruction that we have in here, 1A?
Yes, teacher. Okay, you're going to listen to two people. Sorry, teacher, I can see. Oh, okay, now I see. You're going to listen to two people talking about surviving on a desert island. Listen and tick which of the items in the box in exercise 2 they mention.
Very good. So we already clarified, I hope, as much as possible, all these words that we have in here related to vocabulary. And notice the context. They're talking about surviving on a desert island. The idea is just to tick the objects that they mention, okay, from this big list that we just, let's say, started a few minutes ago. Guys, we're going to listen twice, okay, just to make sure. We're going to listen the first time, and then on the second time, I'm going to tell you how many of these objects they mention. Of course, I'm not going to give you the answer right away, but just like to make sure that you have like the precise number, you know, just like that. Guys, do you have any questions about the instructions? Questions?
One question.
Okay, great. We're going to listen twice.
Unit 11, recording 6.
So, what do you think? If you went to live on a desert island, what would you take?
Well, firstly, I'd take a tent, definitely.
Really? I don't think so. Why?
Well, if you didn't have a tent, you wouldn't sleep properly. You know, a tent would keep you dry if it rained, and it would keep you warmer. Actually, I'd take a blanket too. I mean, it would probably be really cold at night.
A tent and a blanket? Are those your first two choices? So you could sleep properly? What about food and water? Those would be more important, wouldn't they?
Well, yes, they're important too. My third choice would be bottled water. Obviously, you would need water to survive.
Bottled water? You would have to take a lot. I don't think it would be possible to take enough.
I don't know. And I'm not sure about the food. There's nothing on the list about food.
Well, if you were on a desert island, you would have to find your own food, I suppose.
Yes, that's true. A knife would be useful to prepare food.
Okay, guys, we're going to listen twice. As I told you at the beginning, just to make sure that you have the right amount of objects, he's mentioning 4 of them, okay? If you already had the 4 of them, or you are missing 1, or maybe you got 5 or 6, let's listen like again so you can make sure that you get the information. And of course, we are going to check the answers with all of you.
Unit 11, recording 6.
So, what do you think? If you went to live on a desert island, what would you take?
Well, firstly, I'd take a tent, definitely.
Really? I don't think so. Why?
Well, if you didn't have a tent, you wouldn't sleep properly. You know, a tent would keep you dry if it rained, and it would keep you warmer. Actually, I'd take a blanket too. I mean, it would probably be really cold at night.
A tent and a blanket? Are those your first two choices? So you could sleep properly? What about food and water? Those would be more important, wouldn't they?
Well, yes, they're important too. My third choice would be bottled water. Obviously, you would need water to survive.
Bottled water? You would have to take a lot. I don't think it would be possible to take enough.
I don't know. And I'm not sure about the food. There's nothing on the list about food.
Well, if you were on a desert island, you would have to find your own food, I suppose.
Yes, that's true. A knife would be useful to prepare food.
Well, guys, we already listened twice. Let me stop sharing sound just to avoid other sounds to be just there. Let's see. 4 objects from the list that we had in here. Let's see which objects were listened. I would like to hear Maria Vega. So, tell us, yes.
Then blanket and bottled water.
And there is one more. Should we ask some help, Maria, maybe, to someone else? Let's ask. Catherine in the chat had said tent. Okay. Let's see if we have extra help. Catherine Rodriguez says knife. Very good. That was the last one where they were talking about how, well, she was actually pointing out how he was going to get the food, right? So it was a desert island, probably he had to hunt, and that is why at the end he chooses the knife. Yes, very good. Guys, questions from this part? Let's move then to the following aspect that we're going to review tonight. As I told you at the beginning of the session, our session has been divided into 2 different parts. The first part talking about vocabulary related to camping in general. And then on the second part, as I was telling you, we are talking about a component that is not new for you. In the previous cycle, you have already started studying different types of conditionals, and we were talking about conditional number 1. We are going to continue with conditional number 2. That is going to be like, let's say, that grammatical component that we're going to study tonight. But first of all, let's refresh our memory. When we're talking about conditionals, as the information says, we're talking about something that describes the result of a certain condition. This first example that we have here is the typical example that maybe we can use when we are talking about the first conditional. The if clause is, of course, giving us the information about the condition, while the other clause is giving us the result. A typical example, once again, if you study hard, you will pass your exams. If the condition is clear, then we can get the result. Of course, as you already know, we can change the order of the statements. I can say, you will pass the exams, comma, if you study hard. That is like the essence of the conditionals. We need the condition to eventually have a result. In this case, we know that it's a real conditional. But tonight, as I was telling you, we are going to have a look at the next conditional that we have in a very good list that is called the second conditional. What is going to happen, or what is like the main difference with or compared to the first conditional? The first conditional talks about real results, something that it is like with a high probability to happen. In the case of the second conditional, we're talking about imaginary situations because probably they are impossible or unlikely to happen in reality. For example, I can say if I won a lot of money, I'd buy a big house in the country. In this case, this condition is almost impossible. But in case that that condition would happen, although the percentage of probability is like 1%, this would be like the 100% result that would occur in case that that situation came through at some point in my life. As you already remember, what we're doing is to put 2 sentences together. That is basically the idea when we create a conditional. In this case, in terms of grammar, and we gotta be really careful about this aspect, the if statement is going to be used, the grammar in past, but it doesn't mean that it's past simple, okay? Just the grammatical component. And in the second part, we will be using would. Precisely that ending that would is giving us somehow is giving us like the idea or the intention that there is a very like not possible situation to happen, but in case that that situation happens, the result in this case would be to buy a house in the country. Okay, now I want to have a look at this second example. It says, I wouldn't worry if I were you. Probably one of the most common, let's say, things that we keep on repeating when we're talking about the verb to be in past is the combinations, you know, like these pronouns always go with was, and these pronouns, they always go with were. And we know that I always goes with was. But remember once again that in this case, we are using the grammar in past, but we are not talking about past. That is why in this case, it is correct to say, if I were, you know, because it's an imaginary situation. Even to say if he were, it's okay. But if we say if I was or he was, it's also fine. That is not really like a problem in this case, because we're talking about that hypothetical condition in order to have that possible result. For example, if I were you, I wouldn't mention it. Once again, here we have the verb to be in past, but we are not talking about the situation in past. We're talking about a possible and imaginary situation, and this would be the result. Of course, we can use it affirmative or negative like in this case, but the most important to keep in mind, once again, guys, is that this second conditional is talking about things that are somehow impossible are unlikely to happen. Actually, there is no real probability for them to happen, but it's just like imaginary situations for the future, okay? Guys, do you have questions? The idea is clear. What would be like an example also of second conditional? What would you say? Tell me questions. No problems. Don't be shy. You have any questions? If you have questions, let me know, like present, like a reality. Remember, the grammar is in past, but we are not talking about past. Like in this case, si yo ganara.
Sorry, the conditional if always and was the verb, or maybe the situation if in present in another situation.
The second conditional always requires that the if part is in past simple. And we have two possibilities of past simple. With, for example, in this case, the irregular verbs, or like in this case that we have the verb to be. The idea is that we have the two possibilities, but in general, it has to be past simple for the second conditional. Because for the first conditional that you studied in the previous cycle, the if part is always in present because it is something real and possible to happen. In this case, the idea of the second conditional is like an imaginary situation. And that part in grammar goes in past, but it doesn't mean past. For example, in this case, well, probably you don't like it, but I'm gonna like tell you what this means in Spanish so you can make like that connection. Si yo ganara la lotería, we're talking about something that, let's say, it's almost impossible. Of course, there is a kind of probability, but at the end, the odds are really like minimum, you know. And the thing is that because in English, we don't have so many grammatical structures compared to Spanish, because in this case, we say, yo gané. No, but in this context, we're talking about like a probability really, really far like to happen in my future, but with almost 1% degree of actually certainty like to happen. That is the idea with this type of conditional. We're talking about imaginary situation. Like we think that an, I don't know, ideal world, that would be like the situation to happen, although the probability is really minimum. Okay. Questions? Well, as usual, the best. Yes.
Other example.
That is why I said you raise your hand, because then we don't know who wants to speak first.
Teacher, o sea, el if es como si modificara o sea, el pasado, porque o sea, si uno lo ve como el español es como si uno estuviera hablando en futuro, ¿no? Como si yo ganara, si yo fuera tú, bueno, no sé. Pero el if es como si modificara esa estructura, o sea, porque va en pasado simple, ¿cierto? Es lo que entiendo.
Sí.
Entonces el if modifica esa estructura.
El if marca la condición.
Okay.
Y el if siempre me va a obligar a que vaya en pasado. In the second conditional.
And the second conditional, because the if it is other conditional, imagine, and first conditional, and the combination, the first and second, but in this case, only second condition.
It's only second, yeah, because we have 0, we have first, we have second, and we have third conditional. Like in total, there are 4. So all of them have like their own ideas, but like in general terms, let's say that the simple tenses, let's put it like that, like the simple ones go always with if, and the modals go in the result. And in this case, for the moment, the modal that we're using is would, because actually we can use could also as in the modal in the result part. But let's say that the typical combination is past simple as condition and would as result. But in grammar, could also works. I had seen also like another microphone open, but I couldn't see the name besides Marlon. I don't know if someone has something to ask. Well, as usual, guys, when we practice, it's way better. We get a clear picture of what we're going to do. Let me share with you the link. Well, first, I'm going to tell you what the activity is about. We have already, let's say, established. Let me make sure that I'm sharing the whole screen. Okay. We have already established that the conditionals always are divided into 2 sentences, that when we put the sentences together, there is a whole new idea that appears. In this case, as you were already stating, this type of conditional, although imaginary, somehow has a projection in the future, but the grammar that we use is in past. And as I was also like summarizing, the if will always contain the simple tenses. In this case in particular, if always, let's say, introduces the information in past simple, so the conclusion or the result would always be related to the modal. And in this case, because it is something that doesn't have a high level of certainty, we have to use would, and would has that idea, like something imaginary. What you have to do basically in this part, as you can imagine, is to choose the correct form. In all the cases, the sentences are incomplete, so you have to decide which is the proper combination. Now, of course, we're talking about second conditional. That means that first, the part with if goes in past, and then the result with would. And then it moves and it continues. So the idea that you analyze all the statements, in some cases, you have to complete only one part. In other cases, you have to complete both parts. But make sure that the 2 sentences are present. One part using the grammatical structure of past simple, and the other part using a modal to talk about the result in the future. That is like the main thing to keep into account. So I'm gonna send you the link to the chat. Let me know you have access to it, if it is working properly. Is it working? Let's see the chat. Yes. Karen says no. What happened? What does it say?
Yes, Miss, it's working well.
Maybe you thought that I was saying, did you have any question? Because that is sometimes what happens. Okay, perfect. I'm gonna send it again. I saw. Okay, sure, Karen, absolutely. There it is. Okay. 14 statements. We're going to have a look at them. I think that 6 minutes will be more than enough. Remember, make sure that you have the 2 combinations. 7 minutes is starting now. Ah, okay, Karen, is it working? ¿Ahora sí funciona? Let's see the chat. Perfect, Karen. Very good. Let's start. Well, guys, time's up. Let's see, let's refresh the page. So the winners, Diego, Maria B, and Jorge, very good. Remember that in this case, this type of games value time, of course, as well as the correct answers. Guys, is there a statement that you would like to check in particular from this activity that you just did? Like you said, I'm not sure about number. Let's see, probably one that had a low percentage. Number 3 and number 4 are pretty similar. If I were you, well, we had, let's say, discussed a little bit when we were introducing the topic. You know, we have like fossilized so much the fact that I always goes with was, and it is not incorrect. But remember that in this case, we're talking about like a whole new, let's say, idea, grammatical structure. So where is the most appropriate? That in terms of grammar, was would be like a possibility, because we're talking about an imaginary situation. Let's say that the grammatical balance leans on the use of were. That's the reason why. It is not that natural to use was when we're talking about a second conditional. That would be the thing. And also number 4 had the same idea. Well, it is a question, but at the end of the day, what we have to do is like let's say, see where the two sentences are divided, you know? After if is a whole new sentence. So this is the first or one of the aspects to analyze. After if, we need only the verb in past. Remember, I say only for the moment because we're talking about the second conditional. With other conditionals, we need another grammatical structure. So if I have the past, that means that in the other part, I need the modal. In this moment, the modal that we're using is would. That would be the thing. I guess that also the same situation happened with number 12. Well, all of them are actually really good, have a high percentage. But just like to clarify the ones that didn't have most of the correct answers. Once again, it's a question, you know, we already had the modal in the first part. That means that we need the verb in past on the second one. That would be it. Well, guys, but in general, it was pretty good. Of course, I just wanted to make sure that these ones weren't like a real problem. But once again, I would like to know if there is something that you want to clarify. In the meantime, I'm sharing this. Okay. Well, guys, let's continue. We're going to move to the topic that we have today, a little bit like an imaginary situation. Of course, remember the idea talking about the desert island. I'm going to read this instruction for you. It says, imagine you were going to live on a desert island individually. Choose 5 items from the box in exercise 2 from page 100 that you would take. I just took a screenshot of the vocabulary and put it in here, but it's just exactly the same amount of vocabulary that we had there. Also, I realized that probably there are other objects that, from your opinion, from your perspective, are necessary to be taken in case that you were sent to a desert island. So if there are other aspects that you would other objects that you would like to include, go for it. But anyway, at the end of the day, you only need to choose 5. Now, this is what is going to happen. You will be sent to breakout rooms. I really hope that I can actually manage to create groups with 4 participants. And you're going to decide the number among the group, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. That decision is like all on you. The idea, guys, is this. I'm going to go back and forth. When you decide the number, you're going to put the ranking here of the objects that you would take to the island, okay? Remember, still number 1, in box number 1, number 2, and so forth, okay? Being in this case, from your perspective, number 1, the most important item, and number 5, the least important, but anyway, well, relevant for that trip to take to the island. Now, after all of you guys put individually the objects that you consider necessary as a group, you are going to make a ranking of the 5 objects that are important to you. But in this case, hopefully you all agree on the 5. What is going to be the difference a little bit? In these ones, you are only writing the name of the object. Here in the box in the middle, you're going to write the name of the objects and why you consider they are important, okay? It is not necessary to write why they are important in your individual boxes, but here in the box that has the ranking, you have to describe, of course, in very few words, why those objects are important. I'm going back to the instruction, okay? Once again, being number 1, the most important, and being number 5, the least important. So, first, you are going to choose 5 items. Remember the idea. You are going on a desert island. Here we have the words from the first activity that we did, or if you want to include other things, that's up to you. You will be working in groups of 4 participants. I hope that all of you can participate. Each of you will have a number. Based on your number, you're going to write your 5 items, and you're going to make a classification. Number 1, the most important, and number 5, the least important. Then here in the box in the middle, you are going to agree as a group from the objects of your lists, the 5 that are the most important. And also you are going to write the reasons why they are important, okay? And then we would come back in here to see your rankings. These are the instructions. I'm gonna make sure that you can share your screens. Guys, questions?
Yes. Only the list?
The list in the individual box. In here, only the list.
Only the list, other the words impossible?
Other, what do you mean? Sorry.
Maybe other words.
Okay, I get your question, sorry. No, the idea that if you want to include other words besides this, yes, you can. Like this is a group, but if you consider that other things are important to you, perfect. Include those other words. And now I see your point, yes. Any other question, guys, while I create the groups at random as usual? It's in chat. Well, we already have the general idea, but that's the intention. I went too far. That would be the final instruction. Make sure to use the second conditional when explaining the reasons why you chose those items, okay? I'm going to say, like, I would use this if I had to. If I didn't, then I wouldn't, blah, blah, blah. The idea that when you explain the 5 items that are the ones, that are here in the middle, you use the conditionals. That would be it. Well, guys, I'm gonna give you a few seconds to take a screenshot here of the instructions. Let me also turn my camera off. So take a screenshot of the instructions. And then I'm gonna send you the link that is gonna take you to your slide. Remember, the name of your group is the number of your group is the number of the slide you will be working on, okay? Guys, in total, you will have 20 minutes. I will keep you posted. And then we will come back. Okay. Let me make sure that I don't have any repeated names. List. Well, guys, let's start. Could you please let me know that the slide is working properly before we go?
Yes, teacher, is working properly.
Perfect.
Teacher, ¿puedes poner la presentación anterior?
The instructions?
Yes.
There you are.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome. Okay, let me send you to the groups and let's start working. Well, we have here Vanessa, Valentina. Bueno, vamos bien. Vanessa and Beatriz, tell me any problems, any issue?
I know me, sorry, no. I don't think, sorry, yeah. Come back.
Don't worry, okay. Vanessa. Well, guys, time's up. Welcome back. Let me share the whole screen. Well, let's see. The idea was to include the reasons. I saw that some of you were typing down the reasons over here. That's perfectly fine. I mean, the situation that suits you better. Let me make sure they are there. Acá, group number 2, you haven't finished. I hope that you don't take a lot of time. Group number 3, the reasons. Don't forget to write them down. Some groups, as I was telling you, are writing down the reasons here. The idea is to type them down, okay? And Manuela, well, they are also finishing, and group number 5 already finished. Okay, guys, very good. There is something that I wanted to clarify, especially for the one that didn't attend our session on Friday. And in this case, this was kind of the mini homework. We didn't have enough time to finish it on Friday. I hope that the ones that couldn't attend had an opportunity to look at the recording of the session. We did the first activity, you know, and if you have the time, hopefully do it tomorrow, you know, because one of the parameters is that if you don't do the activities, one day, like this, in this case, we do it during the session. Probably we don't have enough time, then we have to, let's say, take some of our personal time to finish the activities, then you would get 0, and that is not the idea. So remember that when you have access to the materials in here, the part that says session 1 is going to display, well, the material that I used during the session. And here you have the link, you know, that is going to take you to that PowerPoint that we used in class. The invitation for the students that couldn't attend on Friday. I know that some of you had, well, some personal issues, and that is the reason why you couldn't attend, that you, well, somehow do the activity that we were doing on that day, okay? I was going to adjust, like, here the type of setting, but some of you are still working on that. Well, guys, do you have any questions? I'm sure that most of you have already finished. Probably there are some fewer ideas missing, but most of you are already working on that.
Teacher?
Yes?
Do you remember which slide is one of the activity of Friday?
There are 2 blanks, you know, John Sebastian. I think that one is Marlon's and another one is yours. Volarte, Ortiz. I think yours is 11.
Okay, teacher. Thanks.
Okay. There is another one that is blank, that is 17. Around S. That would be the surname. 20 is also blank. Well, guys, I hope that most of you already finished doing the sentences. As usual, thank you very much. Don't forget that the activity will be available until tomorrow. So on Wednesday, I can start grading it. Guys, see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye, teacher.
I mean,
Take care, everybody.